I'm going to show you how to make a very simple file library. This file library piggybacks on the previous video that I did all about protected files, a feature inside of Thrive Apprentice where you can protect files for secure download, and you might want to use these for a members area library where people can download the files and see them only if they have access. To get started, we're going into the protected file section of Thrive Apprentice. If you haven't watched my previous video about protected files, go check that out first and then come back and check this one out, because we're not going to go over the details of how this section works. We're just going to use it. So in order to use our protected files, they have to belong to a product, right? So we want to make sure that we have products first. So for me, I have cool product A. I'm going to add a second product. I'm going to call it neat product B. And then we'll add one more. Just because we'll add under back under products, we'll add fun product C. All right, so now we have our three products. Now we'll go to protected files and we'll add some additional files here. We have a design pack file. We'll go ahead and edit this and make sure that it belongs to product A. Perfect. Click save and so on. So you would repeat the process of adding your files and assigning them to your products A, B, and C. And once you've got all of your files uploaded and all of your products created, and that's the foundation of how we're going to make this work, now it's time to go and create our file library. So we're going to do this just by making a page on our website. I will call this member file library. You can call yours whatever you want. And I'm going to save it as a draft and then launch Thrive Architect. I'm going to make mine as a normal page because I'm going to assume that this rests within a theme template that I've made that I've designed for my members area, which is actually, if you haven't built one of those, check out the videos that I have on my channel all about how to create a member dashboard and reuse that as a template. And for this, we're going to get started by adding in a content box. And the content box is going to be where the files reside for each of our different Thrive Apprentice products, right? Remember, we had three of them, and we're going to put a protected file inside each one. So our first one is going to be for product A. So I'm just going to put some text in here, and I'll call this product A files. We're not going to get fancy. Make it an H2 so we can see it. And then I'm going to go to my content box. I'm going to duplicate that twice. And this will be product B files and product C files. Now inside of each of these, I'm going to put a column just because I imagine that you might have three different products or something like that. And I want to show you kind of how this would flesh out and look if you protected multiple files per section. And I'm not going to get fancy and design this. I'm showing you more of the mechanics and some of the basics. You can take what I do further and you can design it and customize it on your own. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll add the columns to each of our section, again, assuming that there's going to be like three files for each one. And again, you can duplicate this for more. Inside of each of our columns, now we're going to start to add the downloads, and I'm going to do some very basic styling. We'll do the first one together, and then I'll just duplicate it. I'll drop another content box inside of this, and I will give it a shadow, an outward shadow, a little bit less, 12.0, 12.0, something simple like that. And then I will round the corners, just to give it a little bit of a design thought, something like 10. And then I'll give it a simple line stroke. We'll reduce the opacity there to something like 50. Simple enough, right? So then we'll add in an image. There we go. We'll shrink our image where we like it. Something that represents our download. Stylize that, remove some of the padding, center it. And let's pretend that we're like, I don't know, our downloads are like Notion files or templates or Canva templates or something like that. So we'll put a little name here. This will be our file name. So maybe we'll call this like a Notion template. I don't know. We can make that like an H3 and then remove the line spacing. Maybe add 20 pixels there. And then if we want, we can add some text. I don't know. Maybe I won't add text, but I'll add like a button to download the template. Okay, something like that. Make it a small button, full width. All right, and then we'll come back into here, and I always like to make this 40, 0. Okay, so let's say that was like download number 1. I'm gonna go ahead and populate this across all of my different columns. We'll fast forward to save you some time. Okay, so we have our different downloads, right? I've created the little cards or tiles for the different downloads for product A, B, and C files. Now it's time to add the protected download into the particular card. So let's pretend we had a bunch of these. We'll click on one of our buttons and we will go to the main options. And for the button link section, we're going to choose the dynamic link option and we're going to choose protected file. And we're going to choose our design pack or Notion template or Canva template or PDF download, whatever it is that you have, and click insert. Great, now our file is linked to this button and we can go through each of our different buttons and assign a protected file to them. Once our protected files have been assigned to each of our sections, what you need to do next is go into the content box for each of our protected file sections. So an easy way to get back to that, if you move your mouse around, you're like, where is that content box? Just click on something, like I'll click on one of these and then in the breadcrumbs, choose content box. There's our content box right there. So we'll go ahead and go to our conditional display section and we'll duplicate our default display just to have some rules on it, and we'll turn off our default display so that by default, if they don't have access to it, it won't show. Then we'll click on our duplicated one above it. Think of it like layers. The one on top will show. Click the pencil icon, call it product A files. Click apply. And now what we're going to do is set some rules. So this product A section will only display when, we'll call this product A, the user has access to Thrive Apprentice product A. There's cool product A, save and continue. Perfect. Now let's repeat that process for the second one. We're going to duplicate the default display, click the eyeball to hide it, rename it product B, files, click apply, go to the rules, display content when the user has access to product B, and we'll name this one product B. Click save. All right, and then I can click on it to show it again. And one more time, we'll click on the content box for this section, duplicate the default, hide it with the eye, rename it product A or product C files this time. Click apply, go to the rules, and we'll do when user has access to Thrive Apprentice products, and now we're in product C. Okay, so now we have all three of our sections, and when the user has access, it shows. When they don't, it doesn't show. And the doesn't show is important because we want that section to collapse. So now that we've got each of our three sections designed really however we want, this isn't fancy, I just did this for our demo here. Now that we have all those different things, we can preview by clicking Save Work and clicking Preview what this page will look like. So by default, the user has access to nothing, so nothing shows. We'll address that in just a second. But let's test what we've done to see what this looks like when the user has access to the different products. So I'm going to click in the upper right-hand corner, this orange eye over these squares. I really don't know what that is other than preview conditions. And we can enable product A, B, and C. So this is what it would look like if the user had access to all three sets of files. They could click on the protected download and they could download it. Now, what happens if they only had access to product B's files? Well, I'll uncheck A, and you can see that A disappeared and B took its place. And let's say I only had access to C. Now it only shows C. And I can turn both of those back on. Let's say I had A and C. I'll uncheck B. You can see A and C, and so on. So what an awesome way to be able to have all of your stuff in one library, but only show to people that have access to those downloads because they belong to a particular product. And these products could exist solely to protect these files. These could be courses. You could have a course and you could have 3 courses, and you can say, you know what, to get the protected files, you can go to our member file library, click here, takes them to this page, and they can see them all. And with this method that I showed you, that's how you hide the different protected files if you don't want the user to see them. If you didn't care about people seeing the fact that there's all these different templates, you would just simply not use conditional display, right? Because the files are protected anyway. But using this method, users only see what they have access to, and it's so much cleaner. Now, let's go back and take a look at this one more time here and see what this looks like if the user has access to nothing. Well, there's really nothing on the page. So maybe you're going to have people find this page. I don't know what your setup will be. Maybe people will find it and have access to nothing. Maybe you don't want a blank page. So let's kind of address a default state for all of these. So we'll come into here and let's go ahead and add a background section. And we'll come in here and drop it at the very, very top. And let's add a simple little column section here, 2 columns, and let's add an icon in the left one. Again, I'm going to do some very basic styling for you. Let's do like a file folder. I hate icon searches. I can never find the right one. There we go. Actually, I like this one here. We'll select a file folder and we'll put a section here that's called member file library. All right, this will be something like the name of the page. Heading 1, I'll go into my columns and center align, drag this down, something simple like that. Okay, we're not getting fancy. So now this column section resides within a background section. I'm looking up here in the breadcrumbs. Now let's take each of our content boxes that we have and drag them below the columns here to put them inside of our main background section that we've just added. Okay, so all of our file sections with our conditional display are within a background section. Now it's time to go to conditional display in the background section. And let's go ahead and duplicate the default display so that we duplicate all the work we just did. And let's call this, the duplicated one, has access to files, right? Just something that helps you realize that if someone has access to files, this will show. Now, under default display, let's go ahead and remove all the stuff that we don't want. So we'll go ahead and remove this. We'll go ahead and remove that, delete all of our different content boxes that we've created. There we go. So now we're just left with a default background section and our duplicated one has all of our files. So in here, member file library, I'm going to create like a little notice that just says you don't have access. So again, I'll just put like a little icon, drop it below those columns, make it an alert, we'll do something simple, and then just have it say, you do not have access to any files within our library. And then you can add like a button, click here to go get them, whatever. But this lets us have a default and a version where they have access. Now, we need to set the conditions of our background section conditional display, the one that they have access to files. So let's click on our rules, and we're only going to display this section when, and we'll call this has access to content, when the user, right, has access to product A, or when user has access to product B, or when the user has access to product C. So basically what we've done here is we've created a set of conditions on our background section where this background section showing our files is only going to show if they have access to one of the products that it should show for. And we'll click Save Conditions. They have access to a product with files, or they don't have access to a product with files. We'll go back here, click Save Work, preview it now. Here's what it'll look like if the user has no access to any files. Let's take a look at what this would look like if they do have access to content. So we'll first check our has access to content, and then this is what it looks like if they have access to product A files, if they have access to A and B files, and if they have access to A, B, and C, and we can mix and match any combination of those like we did before. And there you have it, a product or member file library or download library where you can easily, that wasn't a lot of work at all, easily add the files that you want your members to get access to and have them only see the files that they actually have access to. I'll leave this up to you to be able to customize and style however you like, but you can see with only a minimal amount of effort and very little time at all, we built something very, very functional using Thrive Apprentice and Thrive Architect.